Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and today I'm going to be doing something different, and it's going to be a character overview of Dr. Fate. Now, as many of you can probably tell from last week's videos, I was very fortunate to be invited by Warner Brothers Studios in the UK to get my hands on Injustice 2 very early and get to play a lot of Dr. Fate. Now, this is a character I've displayed a lot of interest in even before his release, and someone who I do have to say I was rather reluctant to play, but after actually playing him myself, I will actually say he's a very fun character to play with. Now, consider this as a strict overview of the current character that I played in this build, because this obviously isn't the finished build for the game, so anything can be changed between now up to the game's release. So take what you will from this, as I will say a lot of things that I say here about this character are most certainly subject to change. But if you're interested in the character before his release, I will say that this will be a somewhat rough guide for you. Now, Dr. Fate is an extremely powerful zoner. His special moves and his keep away game is what really has him shine in this game. He isn't particularly the best zoner, but he has some tools in his arsenal that make him extremely special, and something that's very different compared to the first Injustice game. Now, first off, let's talk about his special move. His standard fireball isn't a knockdown, but is rather quick and is a fantastic way of keeping your opponent at bay. By meter burning it, you can in fact fire free and have your opponent become rather hesitant with what they want to do. Fate also has another projectile called the Displacer Orb. Now, this move in itself isn't too special, but it's a fantastic tool of kind of cutting your opponent off. You can in fact cancel this move and hold it in place in order to either hold them at bay or have something between yourself and your opponent. It's not the best tool that Fate has in his arsenal, but it's one that can most certainly help in creating more space. Now, let's say your opponent can deal with this and they're able to get past said projectile. Then use your down back 2, your Glyph of Osiris, to in fact push your opponent away. Now, you'll be using this tool a fair lot during your strings, because depending on who you're fighting, it could turn any unsafe string into one that is safe, especially if you meter burn it. That's a guaranteed safe string. Standard pushes your opponent away, and by meter burning it, you can send your opponent full screen. It's an extremely powerful tool as it helps him with his keep away game. Now, let's say you're playing as Dr. Fate and you go toe to toe with a character who is in fact better at zoning than you are. Well, then you'd want to play this. It's called the Breath of Life. This in fact will allow Dr. Fate to heal as he is zoning. Now, he can put this in front of him, where he is, or behind him, and this move can in fact stack twice. So if one orb isn't enough, you can have two in the same spot. But I'd only recommend this move to be used if you're playing against the zoner, because you can easily be put out of place against a brawler like Grodd, or even Scarecrow for that matter. Now, here's one that's rather important. The 3 onks that you see displayed around him are called the Spells of Judgment. These are in fact a very powerful tool if they are used correctly. If they're misused, then they will be extremely useless. You can stack up to 3 at a time, and when they hit your opponent, they're unblockable and will in fact launch your opponent. Now, in saying that, the tracking on these aren't the best, so if your opponent moves whilst you're trying to apply it to them, the launch will easily not take place, and this can in fact be rather risky. So when applying this move, you will need to give your opponent a hard knockdown or set them up to be hit by this, because if that's not the case, then you are going to be extremely disappointed. Now, a massive downside to this is that the onks will disappear if a clash is initiated or around end. It doesn't matter how many onks you have, they will disappear if these two things do happen, meaning unfortunately that you will have to build them up again. His final move is called Sheridan's Lock. This basically prevents your opponent from using any kind of background interaction. Now, this is extremely good, as it will stop some projectiles being thrown at you that are unblockable, and is a fairly handy tool. But I will say, out of all of the special moves he does in fact have, this is the one that I see being used the least. It is extremely good, but I feel like this is something that is very situational. Now, before we get onto the combos, let me talk about his trait. And this trait is one that I'd say completely changes the performance of the character. All of his magic and all of his projectiles are amplified, meaning that his fireball does more damage, and his Glyph of Osiris now has the ability to juggle, which is something that Dr. Fate severely lacks in. But we'll be talking about character flaws at the end of the video. Now, this is an extremely powerful tool for him, allowing him to do some extremely incredible stuff, and I'm not sure if this should actually happen, as I did find this out in the current build that I played, but it can completely annihilate air tech. It will destroy it and will give you the opportunity to have a free juggle. I honestly do see this as one of Fate's strongest tools, and with the ability to punish an air tech, I think this might be the strongest tool in his arsenal. Of course, this is only when trait is activated, so again, it is situational, but can in fact happen. Now, the 3 onks that surround him now become landmines, and this does vastly play into his keep away game. Now, when you do activate his trait, you don't really have to go in and start attacking your opponent. You can easily just rely on your keep away game, as pretty much all your damage is already amplified, regardless of whether you're in front of your opponent or far away from them. Dr. Fate with his trait on exceeds in both areas, and this does make him extremely dangerous. Another thing that allows Dr. Fate to be extremely strong is when he grabs with his trait on. This in fact allows him to juggle afterwards, but it only works in the corner. So again, although this is an extremely powerful tool, this is a place where the character doesn't want to be, and somewhere I can see him struggling with getting out of. So although this is an extremely handy tool, it's very dangerous. Now let's actually get onto some of his combos, and then I'll get into talking about some of his setups, as although he's a zoner, he does have some setup tools that will allow you to apply some massive damage. Now I'm not going to be talking about every single combo string he has here, but the ones that were the most useful to him when I was playing as him, and ones that I will most certainly see in the competitive scene. Dr. Fate's 112 is an extremely good move, ending in an overhead and being able to send your opponent away. It will allow you to summon a mini Ankh, and is a very quick way of kind of building up the free. Now don't overuse this move, as it is unsafe and you can in fact be punished for it, so don't be afraid to push your opponent away if need be. 113 is another fantastic tool he has, and if you hold down the 3 on the last hit, you can in fact dash cancel, which is extremely good if you're playing against a character that is strictly focused on complete rushdown. It's a great way of kind of opening up a gap and letting you breathe as you want to kind of keep your opponent away. Dr. Fate's back 1 down 3 2 is a fantastic tool at keeping your opponent away. In the middle of the string it does hit low and does in fact have the possibility to juggle in the corner. It's just another fantastic tool to open up some space. Now there is an alternative to this string. His back 1 down 3 up 3 ends with an overhead and puts you directly in front of the opponent. I could see this being very useful if you put someone in the corner, but again this is very unsafe and it is quite a gamble, as the corner is something I would say that Dr. Fate doesn't really want to touch. Now his final string is 2-1-1-3. It's a great way of ending combos, and if you just do 2-1-1 it's a hard knockdown. So by doing that you can create some space again if you want to go back for zoning, or if you wish for setup. Now overall Dr. Fate is an extremely powerful character. He's a very unique blend of setup and zoning. This character certainly does succeed in those areas. However, he's not entirely solid. A lot of people do complain about Dr. Fate because what they see is spam, but in fact the character only has 3 launches, and that's excluding his back 3. His forward 2 up 3 is extremely good, but is very unsafe unless you use the glyph, and the only 2 other launches he has are ones that he can only activate when his trait is on, that being his grab and the glyph of Anubis. So if you're looking for a character that's all juggle heavy, I wouldn't say that Dr. Fate is a character you should choose. Dr. Fate is a character that requires a lot of patience and a lot of creativity, as his trait opens up a massive door of opportunity for him, but you will have to put a lot of time into him to understand everything that's about him, how to make strings safe, how to have his glyph of Osiris to work at its best, and some of the crazy stuff you can kind of pull off here. We'll say that if you like setup, zoning, and some form of creativity, I would say that Dr. Fate is your character. Now I myself only had roughly about, I'd say 3 hours with the character, not nearly enough to kind of give him a full examination, but from what I've played of him, this is how I feel he'll be at his best. Now I would be doing other character breakdowns, but last week when I was recording, I wanted to completely devote my time to this character, as he is a very complex one, and one that I do in fact plan on maining. Now if you're interested in more character breakdown, I do advise you to heavily check out Ketchup and Mustards' channel. They were very gracious enough to invite me along with them to this event, and have put hours and hours of time into actually breaking down many of the newer characters in the game. Please do go out and check their content. They do have a Dr. Fate video of their own, and it goes a lot more in depth over there than what it is here. They've also done some stuff for Scarecrow and Gorilla Grodd, and it's absolutely fantastic work. So please do go over to their channel and look at their stuff. These guys honestly deserve a lot more love for what they do. Now there'll be another Mortal Kombat video this Wednesday, as well as another Injustice video this Thursday, most likely talking about the top 5 guest characters that I want to kind of see within the game. Anyway, as always guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.